What would you say if you could have someone tell you that your child is considered 66% more likely to be considered flourishing by interacting with older adults? That's pretty impressive, and that comes from a Time magazine article that was just published last week. Today, we're going to be talking with a group who is actually implementing this, putting it in place, has some great stories to share, and we can't wait to talk to them. Welcome to Mavericks of Senior Living. Unfortunately, Francis is not able to be here today, so we'll have to get him on this and talking about it at a different time. But we're super excited to be talking with Jennifer Guynn and Kim Beasley. Jennifer and Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It would be great if you would spend a minute and tell your audience who you are, each one of you, and where you work. And then Jennifer, share a little bit about the program that we're going to talk about.
I'll start. My name is Kim Beasley, and I am the Director of Communications and Outreach for AG Rhodes. And AG Rhodes is a nonprofit nursing home group in the metro Atlanta area. We have 3 nursing home locations. We are unique in that we are one of the few nonprofit nursing homes, and we're also one of the oldest nonprofits in the state of Georgia. And we use volunteers at all 3 of our locations. They provide invaluable support and companionship to our residents, bring in lots of fun activities, spend time, and just build those relationships with our residents. I've worked with Jen for many years through Pebble Tossers. They bring volunteers regularly to our homes. And so when we wanted to create this intergenerational program, it was just a very natural fit to ask them to partner with us on that.
That's great. Love it. So you said, Kim, that you've been working with Jennifer for about 20 years, even before AG Rhodes, right?
Even before AG Rhodes, yes. We've worked in, the nonprofit world is a very small world, and you intersect with the same people. And so we've worked together on programs with different organizations for many years. So
that's great. It also,
with her.
Yeah, and it also says you've had good success. So Jennifer, tell us about you.
Absolutely, yes. So Pebble Tossers started about 15 years ago, mainly as a way to connect kids and families with age-appropriate service. I'm the founder and executive director, and it was like, why is this so hard to get my kids involved in service outside of like a faith-based organization or their school? And so my co-founder and I kind of just sat down and we're like, okay, what do we need to do? We're going to try and bring together organizations across several different cause areas. We've got 12 cause areas, and they range from animals and elderly to veterans. And we host projects weekly, and we also like to do kind of like special leadership development, service oriented, development workshops and camps and things like that. And so back in, I think the first one we did, Kim, was in 2017.
It was 2018, and it was a very short version of what we're doing now.
Yeah, and so Generation Connect kind of came out as there's an Eden alternative, process that talks, just about patient or the elders directed care. Like they know what's best for them, and AG Rhodes, kind of follows that philosophy of providing care based on who their residents are, not just like one size fits all. And so Kim and I talked about how can we bring together our organizations to create something different and unique. And I'm not sure of anybody else that's doing a program like this, but we bring and we buddy kids together with an elder, and it's kind of like a summer camp for both of them. And it's just it's a fun experience. It's a really fun experience. I know we'll get into that in a little bit too. So
that's great. So this came out of Eden Alternative. That's something that I didn't know. Wonderful. We're big fans of Eden Alternative. And the idea of connecting people intergenerationally is talked about in this industry quite often. How often or how well it's done, I don't know. I do know a couple organizations that try to match up high school students with older adults and create some mentorship on both sides. And and they're having some great success. And I'm keenly interested in this program, and partially because of the Time Magazine article that you brought up as we were talking about this pre-show, Jennifer. And I'm just going to read some statistics to our audience in this Time Magazine article, and we will put a link to it in our note shows. Compared to kids who had not participated in community services in the past year, those who had participated were 34% more likely to be in excellent or very good health, 66% more likely to be considered flourishing, and 35% less likely to have behavioral problems. If you got 1% movement on those things, it would be enormous, especially after COVID. So the value of this is immense. And I think so often it is overlooked because it's just a volunteer project, right? People go, it's just a volunteer project. It is not just a volunteer project. So let's hear about the program itself and what you're doing and what you're experiencing with it.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is so much more than just a volunteer project. And going back just quickly to what Jen was saying about the Eden Alternative, one of the things, again, that I think makes them such a great partner with us is they were already doing that. And I don't even know if they realized that they were doing that. You know, they were bringing volunteers regularly to our homes. And in the course of learning about the residents that they were spending time with, they learned their favorite snacks. And the next thing I know, they were bringing their favorite snacks every time they come and visit. It's a small example, but it's the perfect example of what that person-directed care means. And they just did it. They did it naturally. But that's
also Mr. Willie would not come if I did not have Lay's potato chips. He would not come down to participate in whatever we were doing.
See, and the point there is such, it sounds like a small point, but it's not. It is, I saw you, I heard you, I paid attention to you, and I want to give you what you want. Please come. Please, I have Lay's potato chips. I think it's beautiful. And it can be that simple. And that's, I think, what often people don't realize is it can be that simple to get started. All right. Continue.
So with the Generation Connect, I mean, the basis of it, yes, is matching teens and elders together, and they're volunteering, but then we've built in multiple aspects to the week. So they're also coming in and they're learning about different careers in healthcare. We bring in Deke and he does a lunch and learn. They sit down with the administrator of the home. They sit down with the director of rehab. And so they learn what it's like to work in healthcare, regardless of whether they want to take that into a long-term care setting. So many of the healthcare type jobs that we have span the gamut of healthcare. So they learn about that. They learn about music therapy and horticultural therapy. They do the oral history project with the elders. And so they're spending the whole week. We do kind of a little speed dating type activity on Monday, which is when they find their buddy for the week. And so we build in structured time, we build in free time for them to just hang out and watch movies and get to know more about them. And then at the end of the week on Friday, we do a cookout, a party. We invite the parents, we invite everyone involved, and we ask the students to come up and say a few words about what the week meant to them. So it brings it all full circle by the end of the week. And then the Pebble Tossers group bring in trainings around, now that I've learned this, what can I do next? Leadership opportunities, continuing to volunteer. So we really try to make it as much of a development opportunity for both students and the residents as possible, and so that it's not just a volunteer activity. We do a super fun field trip, and what's a summer camp without a field trip and matching t-shirts? So we take them out on a field trip one of the days. We do it towards the end of the week so that they can get that familiarity and that comfort level. It's really great to see them all on Monday, and they're kind of a little bit awkward and standing around and not quite sure what to do. And then by Thursday and by Friday, they're joking around, they're just hanging out. You can tell the connection is so much more natural and comfortable. So it's a really great process to see.
Let me ask a question. So in that, are you running these every week, once a month, once a summer?
Yeah, we're just restarting it after COVID. And it's 1 week in July.
Okay.
Yes.
For now.
Yeah, for now, right? What was it pre-COVID?
It was the same idea. So 2019 was the first year that we did this as a full week, Monday to Friday, all day. The year before it was a half a day.
It was more of it wasn't the kids that were the first two, the kids didn't have as much interaction with the elders. It was more of them learning with the hope of them coming back and volunteering. There was some interaction, but definitely not as and it went through the whole summer, different weeks in summer. So I think we thought that the 1 week all condensed would kind of be a better fit for the kids.
And it's really, like you said, more like summer camp if it's 1 week, right? And
with also that with the hope, and we had success on this, in 2019, that the kids would continue to come back and visit their elder and visit other people that they met. And then it wouldn't just be a one and done, that they keep coming back on their own and they schedule their own time and fun activities.
So based on what Kim just shared, Jennifer, what kind of results are you seeing? And I don't mean, our typical business statistic results, but what do you see? What has changed people's lives?
I think it is wonderful because a lot of times people they're not close with, like physically close with their grandparents. And so they don't necessarily have a chance for one-on-one interaction with someone who is older than them. And it's really great. It builds up the confidence in the kids of how to have a conversation, and also how to accept maybe just people who are differently abled. Maybe they're in a wheelchair, maybe they can't hear as well, or their eyesight is not well and they need them to read books to them or something. So it helps the kids just develop more empathy, for sure. One of our guys who was a camper that week is now he's actually going into his sophomore year in college, and he wants to become a doctor, and he's majoring in biology. And so much of what he learned, and he was one of our all-time, and he started volunteering with us at AG Rhodes probably since he was like 8 years old. I mean, he would come all the time and loved it, and just really, really connected and engaged with people. And then when we did this camp, he was one of the first kids to sign up. And so now, I mean, he's actually taking all of that he's done growing up with him, and is going to go forward. And I don't know if he's going to focus, I don't know what kind of age population he's going to focus on, but the fact that he was able to get a sense of that from this camp is amazing, and that's what we want to be able to do, is provide these opportunities for kids to learn about themselves, and then to see the possibilities that can happen down the road, and then to make them happen. It's awesome.
You hit on something really important there, and it's learning about themselves. So we say, go volunteer and be of service. Sometimes we will say those things, go be of service to somebody else, without really connecting the dot back to doing that will change you, and it will impact your life and the way you think about things. As a child myself, I did childcare for someone who is type 1 diabetic and blind. And just having that experience of, we would go to movies together and I would talk him through the movie. He took swimming lessons. His mom had him in everything. He was a skier. Seeing that you could really stretch and not put somebody in a box, which we do with older adults. We were talking about ageism before this, whether there's differently abled or not. We put them in a box and say, oh, they can't do that, they're older, right? So I can relate back to how that impacted my life, and the openness that I have, the open-mindedness, and the way that I have more empathy and understanding and desire to learn to that experience. And that's what I hear you talking about with the kids as they come out of this.
That's right.
Yeah, one of the first things that we did was, as Kim said, the speed dating. Well, we had to kind of rephrase that a little bit for the seniors. We had to call it like, well, imagine it's your dance card and you have your dance card. You're going to go through and meet all these different people and see who you dance best with. or the kids got the speed dating. They did not understand the dance card and, thing. So it was having to explain that a little bit. One of the other things that we did was a dementia training, and where you're going through the simulation of what it's like to experience dementia. And that was so powerful for these kids. At first they were giggling and laughing because you're putting on headphones and glasses and gloves and mittens on top of the gloves and just, all the stuff. And there's just noise going on in this room. And it was just overwhelming for them at first, but then they were like, oh, it's like the light bulb moment where they really understand it's not just that they're old or crazy. It's like there's this is a serious challenge that you're trying to navigate. And then how do you navigate that when you've got all this other stuff going on?
Right. And we did that at the very beginning. We did that right away on the first day. So they would have that frame of reference with them the whole week so that they could reference back that to saying, okay, well, if I'm going to have this conversation and I have to repeat myself several times, or they don't understand what I'm saying the first time, I don't get frustrated, but I understand why. So that was a very important thing to do right at the beginning of the week. The other thing that I think just made it the best part of the experience was, again, the ageism idea. And it was just that they realized they had more in common with each other than they thought. We would play funny games around what kind of music do you like, or what kind of music do you like? And sometimes they would both agree on the same kind of music, and oftentimes they would not, but it made for fun conversations. Or they'd realize, oh, she likes the Terminator movies. I can't believe she likes Terminator. I love the Terminator movies. And they'd find this common ground, and this light bulb would go off, and they'd realize, oh, well, they were young once, and they were this way once, and they had this career, and they had these interests, and they still do. And we have way more in common than we don't. They have challenges with people making assumptions about them because of their age. I have challenges with people making assumptions about me because I'm a teenager. So that, I think, is one of the biggest takeaways that we hope they end the week on.
So powerful that dementia training, the experience of if you had dementia, is so unbelievably powerful for anyone. I can imagine it changing somewhat the trajectory of a life for someone at their age going through that, and not thinking immediately, like you said, about I'm frustrated because they ask me the same questions over and over. I can't think of a more powerful way to start the week. That's beautiful. And Kim, can you talk about how it has impacted the older adults? What do you see shifts after these camps for them?
They just have the best time. It just ends up being a super fun week. Again, the field trip is the highlight of the week. And I think the connections, again, that they're making, the friendships. We, at the end of the week during the reflection session, whatever pictures I had taken for the week, I had several of them printed, and framed them, and they presented their pictures to their buddy so they could have in the room. And again, whether there was one elder at the 2019 camp who did not remember anything from the day before, the field trip, anything, but she still, every time that she came in and met with her friend, it was like she's meeting her for the first time all over again. And it was, for that moment in time and in the context of her life, that was the best thing for her. And she loved it. She had the best time. And I think it was also a good learning lesson for the teenager to see that happen over and over again. And she was very patient because she understood, and she just took it in stride every day that them meeting up and spending time together was going to be a new experience. So I think for our elders, at its most basic level, it was fun, but then it was also a chance for them to tell their stories. It was a chance for them to impart lessons. We would have some of the elders come in and speak to the students about what it was like to live at AG Rhodes, so that they had a chance to be a trainer for the week.
That's
And
great.
yes,
And reminding them a little bit of how much they matter. Because
exactly.
when you don't get that sort of mirrored back to you on occasion, at least, hopefully more often than that, you can lose that. I watched it happen with my parents. I see it happen with older adults all the time. And what you're doing is helping them create that sense of reminding them how important they are as human beings. And Eden Alternative, of course, talks about purpose, and we're all about that. This is so powerful what you're doing, and I'm excited to be talking with you about it. As we wrap up here, can each of you share what would you want our audience to take away from this in terms of action? At the Mavericks of Senior Living, we're all about take action, even if it's small. So what action would you give to our audience?
You want me to go, Kim, or do you want to go?
You can start.
Well, I think if you're in the Atlanta area, come visit AG Rhodes and come volunteer with us. Also, we do have a couple more spots for camp, this week of camp in July for our Generation Connect program. But also, it's one of these things where if you've been thinking about it, talking about it, just go do it. If there's an assisted living, center that's near you, call them up and say, hey, can I come by and make cards one afternoon, or just do something, or do something. Don't just talk about it, because good intentions are one thing, but it's when those good intentions are put into practice and into action, that's where it's helping everybody.
It's great.
For us, yes, so camp runs July 17 through 21. We do have about 3, maybe 4 more spaces for students if you're in the Atlanta area and are interested in applying. And again, just any opportunity that you want to spend with an older adult, and it doesn't have to be some magnificently planned, executed activity or project. I always tell our volunteer base that just spending time with someone makes such a huge difference. It can just be a conversation. It's just another ear for them to have someone to tell their story to feel like they are being listened to and heard. So it's better for us and our residents to have someone who just wants to come and spend time on a regular basis than someone who wants to come and do something big. I mean, the fun parties are fun and great, but it's the relationships at the end of the day is what really matters. And so we are thankfully back open to volunteers, and would love to have volunteers come in and spend time, whether it's during the week at this camp or at any other time.
That's great. And the way they would volunteer is to go to the Pebble Tossers website, correct?
Yes, exactly. We have a service calendar. They can look at the dates and pick a date, and
fantastic. Any last things you want to share with our audience?
I think this program truly was a wonderful thing. And I mean, if other organizations, across the country are interested in learning more, for them just to reach out to Kim and I, would be happy to kind of talk you through how we did it and just the intention behind it. It was and has been a very successful program, and we're looking forward to again this year. And I think, my dad has always told me, he's like, there's always somebody who you can learn from, then there's always somebody who you can teach. And I think that's just a really great example of this whole program. There's a lot of back and forth, and by the end, they are just giggling. They are all having so much fun and just really, really enjoying each other's company. And they've known that they've learned from each other, and I know the teens won't forget it. So
that's right. Yes, we're happy to share all of our resources, because we're constantly learning too. I mean, even as we're doing this again for the 3rd or 4th iteration of this, there's something different every time, which is also why we're such a great time partnering with Jen, because she's the same way. It's like, we have an idea, let's see how we can make it work.
Fantastic.
Roll up the sleeves. Let's go.
That's right. That's right. So AG Rhodes is a skilled nursing community in the Atlanta area, and they are partnering with Pebble Tossers here on Generation Connect. And you've heard the stories here. If you are interested in running a program like this yourself, reach out to Kim and Jen. If you are an older adult or a teen in the area of Atlanta, reach out to them and see how you can participate. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank
you
you
so much.
This was
Appreciate it.
fun.
All right. I am going to just remind you before we sign off, we have National Collaboration in Aging coming up September 27th and 28th, Denver, Colorado. If you have not signed up, please do. We are quickly selling out of sponsorships. We are excited to be attracting innovators from all over the United States and looking forward to a great event this year. So everybody, thank you for joining us today. Go out and pay it forward, and we will see you next Friday on our next show. Thank you.